Welcome to tonight's Atlantic Coast Conference Edition, part 2 of the Klown podcast. Please check me out on Facebook, or you're on smartphone, desktop, laptop, wherever it may be. Type in the Klown Times, the Klown spelled with K, like you see up here. You'll find us there. You also go to my blog. I just posted a new link on rant on Urban Meyer's misfortunes and missteps. But anyway, just go to www.theklowntimes.net. And if you want cool merch like this, go to cafepress.com, search for the Klown Times Push. And I have that link in the description when I upload this to YouTube tomorrow morning. You'll find us there as well. So we talked last week about some ACC football, some new hires and whatnot. Get our thoughts. So I have these two gentlemen back again. You guys know them from the All Sports Discussion, ACC Sports Blog. Here's my man, Jeffrey Fan, and Matthew Warner. So welcome back, fellas.
Thank you.
Right on,
Thanks,
right on.
Glad to be on.
Right on. So, it's funny, like I was searching, I was just screwing around on the web earlier this week, and, I heard something about Comcast. I'm like, are we still screwing around with Comcast again? So I just did a random search on Twitter because, of course, that's where you get your information, right? It's still Twitter. So I went on Twitter, typed in Comcast and ACC, and I got the link that says a big announcement from the ACC's official Twitter handle that, they were pleased to announce that they have a deal with Comcast. So I'm like, holy shit, how did I miss this? So in my elation, I hit up you guys on Twitter, both of you guys, and you guys in a very nice way told me, yeah, we knew that. So basically, I'm gonna start with you, Jeff, and go to Matthew. I want to, because I obviously been out of the loop. So I want to go into if you all could go into the inner workings of this deal. How do y'all think it came to be? And start with Jeff and what this means for the conference moving forward.
Well, I think it came up as the renegotiation time between Disney and Disney, who has the ACC Network, owns ESPN, and Comcast Infinity. And this was the year that it was coming up for renegotiation. The contract was ending, depending on who you asked, either September or in January, but it was definitely this winter. And so that was the prime opportunity for this deal to get done, to get the ACC Network on or to get the ACC Network on Comcast. But, they were able to get it done a little bit later than a lot of people were starting to expect. They thought it might be done prior to football season. They started putting some of the higher profile ACC games on the network, probably to try to put pressure on them. They had Notre Dame at Virginia Tech on the ACC Network at the time when Boston College was undefeated and Clemson was still highly ranked. They had that game on the ACC Network. And then sometime early in the fall, I can't remember exactly when, the Comcast showed up on a lot of people's Comcast.
Yeah, I remember.
And it was like, that. Oh yeah, we finally got it. And then it was gone the next day. They said they were just testing it. But then about 2-3 weeks ago, they said they had reached a deal, but they didn't officially announce when the channel would start showing up for their subscribers. And then today it started showing up on some markets for Comcast that people were able to watch it. For the ACC, I've heard in the neighborhood of anywhere from, $4, $5, $6 million could be additional revenue for ACC teams.
Wow.
So, yeah, that is something they desperately needed, and because of Comcast's large cable subscription, largest in the country. So, that's a lot of eyeballs on the conference, and that additional revenue is gonna be was much needed.
Right. And you know what? Because I think, Jeff, you live in Georgia, right?
I live in South Carolina.
Oh, South Carolina. Okay. So I knew you went to Georgia Tech. But anyway, I know that in Georgia, because I have one of my best friends from childhood, he's a big UNC fan, but he lives in Marietta. No, Smyrna. And long story short, he's he's been mad for the last 2 years.
Yeah.
Because Comcast is dominated. Comcast dominates the game in Georgia, right? So similar to like Cox and Comcast do in state of Virginia. We were Cox customers when we lived in Springfield. But anyway, the long story short is that I thought back to his conversations about wanting to see Carolina play, whether it's football or basketball, and was just thoroughly pissed off at Comcast that they didn't have it. So he wasn't able to see it unless he was go to ESPN.com and stream it.
Right.
But why he was like, why should I try to stream this when we're in the midst of ACC country? But anyway, it's really interesting. Hookie Smash, Matthew, do you have anything to add to that as well?
Yeah, I can't say I really have much to add to it other than the fact that, I mean, Comcast's Xfinity cable service is the largest cable provider in the Commonwealth of Virginia. And so it was really needed here. I mean, and it is the largest cable provider by a huge margin in this state. And so it's a welcome, it's welcome for a lot of people, because I was plotting my exit strategy. I mean, I joke about this on our podcast, because we have Alexandria City this year is actually optioning out 2 new cable franchises, because we built a public municipal network, because we wanted to build some competition and lease out some lines. And so the plus side here is that now that Comcast has the ACC network, and there's 2 other franchises coming in here, I may actually get to watch the ACC network cheaper than other people did. And I waited it out.
All right.
But I may be able to get to watch it cheaper and ditch Comcast. Gosh, I sound terrible when I say that, but
right. If you're a businessman, you gotta be a businessman.
Yeah,
right?
You gotta be smart, right? You gotta be smart. Yeah. So know, but yeah, I mean, just to add on to what Jeff said, I mean, it's gonna mean a lot of increased revenue for the conference schools, which sorely need it.
Yeah. So this to me, I saw a graphic not too long ago about how bigger the reach would be now that Comcast is in the fold. Would it be January 1st or whenever it takes off? To me, this will put the ACC, I think, in the 3 hole. If that's in terms of revenue, like amongst other Power 5 conferences, because it's always going to be Big Ten, SEC, right? It's always going to be, because the Big Ten had a huge head start. They were the visionaries, and so they had so you basically have all those years of ground to make up, which probably would never happen in our lifetimes, right? Combined. And you had the SEC, who's just wildly popular because it's football. So now you have the ACC. Now, with obviously they're not going to catch those 2, but at least there'll be a firmer 3-hole spot, right, ahead of the Pac-12, because the Pac-12 still has its distribution issues because they own their channel outright instead of being smart like the other conferences and partnering with a network, right? Like in their case, they're more a Fox property, kind of like the Big Ten and the Big 12. So they're always going to be catching up, period. And who knows what will go with the Big 12, even with Cincinnati and BYU and Houston and UCF joining the conference. But anyway, so that's why I think the conference can be firm in the 3 hole, which is good. It's not great, but it's
better than
good.
Last.
Right. Yeah, exactly. They're not last. They're definitely not last. So just like a buddy once said about their kid racing in school once, it's like, I don't care if we win, just don't come in last. Just don't come in last. So that's good news for the conference. I'm glad that Jim Phillips or someone who's smarter than we are figured it out, because that's what they get paid to do.
That was a must to get done before the end of the year. If they went into next year without that being finished, that would have been a big red flag for Phillips in the ACC. But that was good. That was good.
Yeah. So crisis averted. So there you go.
Yeah, exactly.
Speaking of crisis, we got the ACC basketball. I mean, fellas, I don't know. I just don't know. Now, Duke has great out-of-conference wins. They beat Gonzaga, right? They
Right.
ran out of gas, unfortunately, shortly thereafter against Ohio State in the ACC Big Ten Challenge. And the more I think about it and looked at the games, whereas like Pitt lost on the last second shot, Virginia lost on the last second shot, we should have won the damn challenge, right? Because like the last day of the challenge, last night of the challenge, where Carolina, the likes of Carolina and I'm trying to think, like Wake Forest and NC State and a few others made up ground for the conference, right? To lose the challenge 8-6. But I went through each of the schedules of the now the conference, and it looks like outside of Duke and Carolina and maybe Louisville, it's slim pickings. I don't know. I mean, as far as shoo-ins for the NCAA tournament, because again, the name of the game is who have you beaten? And unfortunately also who have you lost to, right? But more or less who have you beaten? And like I said before, Duke has great out-of-conference wins. Carolina has a damn good out-of-conference win in Michigan. They blew up Michigan, albeit at home. Louisville has some great good out-of-conference wins as well. They beat Maryland in some preseason tournament, and they beat a couple other Power 5 schools as well. So I think as long as they don't spit the bit during the regular season, I think they're in good shape. Virginia Tech, maybe. They won the road at Maryland in the Big Ten, ACC Big Ten Challenge. And I think they have other couple of good conference wins as well. But outside those four, I mean, Virginia's been a disappointment so far. But out of those four, outside from those four, I should say, Matthew, it's slim pickings, man. I don't know who else would be.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm with you, Scott. I mean, it's it may be one of those years where you see like Duke go to the Final Four and not as many teams get to the NCAA tournament. I mean, I was thinking about Virginia Tech, specifically, right, before we came into this call here, because I mean, there's been like there's been probably, I don't know, I don't, maybe an overreaction, and then there's an underreaction from some fans about Virginia Tech, because like Virginia Tech doesn't have any bad losses. I mean, one could argue that Memphis loss might be getting worse over time, because Memphis has lost a lot of games, but they don't have any of these. I mean, I joke when I say this, but Virginia Tech doesn't have any of these quad 5 losses. Right. They haven't gone in and lost to a team where they're thoroughly unmatched. Or I should say where they should thoroughly overmatch that other team. Right. Virginia Tech lost to Dayton, and that was a case of not showing up the first quarter. They got inexplicably blown out by Wake Forest. And I was a little shocked to see that.
Yeah. But
then I look at Tech's lineup, and one of the things I noticed, there's going to be there's going to be an article at All Sports Discussion about it. I've written about it once about guard play at Virginia Tech. There's a steep drop off from this year to last year. And I mentioned that in a couple of I've mentioned this on a couple of occasions. I know you guys remember Xavier Dowdell and Jamon Gordon, the biggest, baddest guards in the ACC in 2006. Jamon Gordon was the defensive player of the year in the conference. These guys were 6'5" and 6'6" respectively at their positions. They're the Leonard Hamilton sized guards, but they were also like 225, 235. They could play linebacker. And Virginia Tech does not, if you guys even remember from last year, Tyrese Radford and Joe Bamasile, they both played at Tech last year. They're not playing at Tech this year, right? I mean, these are two guards that Virginia Tech really, really misses. And I'm not sure, the fan police could get on me when I say this, right? And I say it on Twitter, the Virginia Tech fan police. But I'm not sure, Storm Murphy was kind of built up pretty heavily when he came in to Tech to transfer from Wofford.
Right.
I don't think he's as good as those players that left. And he's certainly, I can't talk about, right. I mean, everybody has the height that they're given from God, right?
Right.
Whatever happens there, so, and he's not as big as those prior guards that I mentioned in Dowdell and Gordon, right? And so I have concerns about Virginia Tech at the guard standpoint. Do I think they can get better as the season goes along? Absolutely. Absolutely. I think they can get. I think they can get better. They'll have another opportunity here tomorrow against St. Bonaventure at 4:00.
St. Bonaventure is pretty good. Yeah.
Yeah, they are good, but they're evenly matched. So we'll find out whether my assessment on the Virginia Tech guard play, how true that is, or if you're going to show up for more than one half. I mean, like I said, Virginia Tech has time to right its ship, throughout the year.
Mm-hmm.
The other thing I want to say here too, I think NC State has played pretty well with Manny Bates. They've started to adjust to life with Manny Bates out.
Sure.
And I think that's a good thing. I don't know.
We should have beaten Purdue. We should have beaten Purdue, but go ahead.
Oh, for sure.
We should have beaten Purdue. Yeah.
Absolutely. And I that would have been one of the major upsets of the season. I think that I think Virginia is not as good as they have been in the past, and it's because I don't think they have as good players as they've had in the past.
Right. Yes, it's different.
And two, I'm probably going to say something that might be a lightning rod here. So be ready for it, Jeff, and be ready for it, Scott.
Go ahead.
I think Virginia Tech is going to sweep Virginia this year.
Wow.
That could happen.
That's crazy.
And I think that I haven't been able to say that since 2006. It's been a long time since that's happened. Since that's happened, and that's when, God, is it 2006? No, I don't even think they swept them that year. When I think about it, it's been a
rare occurrence,
since that's happened, and I actually think it's going to happen this year. So, I would say that when it gets to March, North Carolina has the post play to make a deep run in the NCAA tournament. We've said this before.
They got a bunch of trees,
right. Whenever they play my team, for example, I'd be a homer here. Whenever they play Virginia Tech, they seem to like to play volleyball against the backboard because they can't shoot. They can't shoot outside sometimes against Tech, right? They end up going less than 30% when they're shooting for three. But if they're playing volleyball against the backboard and getting 48 offensive rebounds, eventually those basketballs go in the bucket. And I think that's the way it kind of will go for them in March as well. Like you said, the trees. I think Florida State will eventually get better, but is there enough quality wins in the on the ACC schedule? I'm surprised that Louisville, quite frankly, is doing as well as they have, considering everybody. Our friend David Teal mentioned something about this, about how everybody at Louisville seems to be plotting their exit strategy.
Is it that bad playing for Chris Mack?
What?
Is it that bad dealing with Chris Mack, or is this a
the president, the athletic director, the football coach now was plotting his exit strategy before the season began.
The Louisville football fans probably want to plot Scott Satterfield's exit.
Yeah. That turned fast. Yeah, that turned fast. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I'm sure Jeff writes the teams each week on allsportsdiscussion.com. So, Jeff, be curious about your thoughts here. I've been rambling for a little bit.
Well, before Jeff goes, you mentioned Wake Forest earlier, right? Wake Forest has some quality out-of-conference wins as well. They beat Oregon State. They beat Northwestern in the ACC Big Ten Challenge. And they got throttled a bit by LSU, but LSU is pretty good. So Wake's another team that could be one of those to get a spot in the tournament if they don't spit the bit during the regular season as well. But Jeff, go ahead. I just throw that out.
No, I was just going to add to that, Scott. Wake Forest is ahead of the rest of most of the ACC, it's just because they're taking care of business.
Yeah.
I really don't think Wake Forest is a great team. I mean,
Sure.
if they made the NCAA tournament, they're probably a double-digit seed.
Yeah.
But by just not losing to teams that they're supposed to beat, puts them ahead of most of the rest of the ACC. I mean, we talked about Duke already. They're great. I mean, they're a national championship contending team. I think North Carolina, we're going to find out a lot more about them against UCLA.
Right.
But I think, you know, their talent level and as big as they are, you know, they're going to win 13, 14 games in the ACC in that 20 game conference schedule, and that they're going to make the NCAA tournament. But I mean, after that, you know, Wake Forest taking care of business right now. But I mean, when they get into conference play, you know, are they really going to, you know, be able to maintain? And Louisville, like you said, they've got some decent wins. But I mean, after that, it's just, I mean, I can't find a team that I really feel like, you know, that's a team that's going to take off in conference season. And they're just, you know, they ran out of time. There's just very, very few quality wins left to gain. And nobody in the ACC picked up, you know, almost hardly any. Notre Dame might be the team to watch. They just knocked off Kentucky.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
And I mean, that gives them a tremendous leg up on the rest of the most of the rest of the conference if they can have a pretty good conference season. And same with Syracuse, who has a win over Indiana. But I mean, they've lost 5 times already. I mean, if NC State, oh my goodness, if they had Purdue beat.
Yeah.
They had that
makes
game
me
won.
mad thinking about it. Yeah.
I mean, yeah, I hate to do that, but I mean, if they'd have knocked off Purdue, I mean, that would immediately put them into the right there with North Carolina. That win would have been that big for them to get. Gosh, maybe Miami might be a team to look at. I know they got a 30-point loss to Alabama, but I mean, they can score a little bit, and I think that's the biggest problem with most of the ACC right now. As I mean, who's a big time scorer all across the ACC? You can look at games that other teams have played where they just faded late in the stretch against good teams. I mean, Clemson was right there with you know, St. Bonaventure and West Virginia, fade late, lose. Georgia Tech had a chance against Wisconsin, faded late in the game. Virginia Tech was in it, you know, late in games against Memphis, you know, couldn't close the deal. I mean, on and on. Just the ACC teams just aren't able to close out games against quality opponents. And I think it just, you know, I don't think necessarily the coaching is any worse than in years past, but I think a big part of the problem is there's just not guys who can score.
Right.
They just have a lot of, you know, how many go-to guys can you think of in the ACC? And you just don't have a lot of them.
Who doesn't play
Keep Aluma. There you go.
I mean, you know, certain teams have one, or, you know, like Georgia Tech has Michael DeVoe, but I mean, he gets defended because they just throw bodies at him, and then there are no secondary scorer shows up. So I think that's, you know, in a couple of these cases, the primary scorer gets bottled up, but I still look at it like there's not a lot of scoring talent in the ACC, not as much as there should be.
Right.
That's true. That's true. Can I just say quickly, Kenny Pickett has decided to forego playing in the bowl.
Oh, really?
That's interesting.
Go right to the right for the NFL draft.
Okay.
Wow.
Can't really blame them, but they would have had a great chance to beat Michigan State had he played. I mean, can't blame the decision at all. And he's done so much for it is what it is, but boy, they could have had I mean, it's already a special season when the ACC, but they beat Michigan State. It would have been like an all-time Pitt season. Maybe they could still do it.
Yeah, I mean, you gotta stop that kid Kenneth. What's his name? The fourth, I think.
Kenneth Walker, the Wake Forest transfer.
Yeah, Wake Forest transfer at that. So, yeah, I mean, I'm just looking at these schedules, man. You're right about Syracuse. They got good wins. They won at Florida State. You know, even though Florida State's a disappointment, and I know they beat Indiana. To your point, they beat Arizona State as well, but They lost to me times so far, but maybe it changes in conference. Who knows? But it's just different, right? You know, it's like it's one of those years, bizarre years, where the SEC looks more competitive than the ACC in basketball.
And you know the weird thing about that is their highest, well, probably after this week with Alabama getting thumped by Memphis, Kentucky's their number 1 or number 2 highest rated team, 0-2 against the ACC.
Awesome. That's awesome. That's awesome. Right
if I'm remembering right, I don't think they have I think they lost to Duke and they lost to Notre Dame.
Yeah. So quickly, guys, Jeff, I'm gonna start with you. How many teams do you think gets invited to this, will earn some NCAA tournaments bid spots? How many teams to ACC?
I'm not seeing more than 5.
Yeah.
I can't see a scenario where they get more than. I guess maybe there's a way if there's like upsets around the country, you know, maybe a 6th team, but I mean, right now it looks like 4 or 5 because they just don't have the wins, and they're not going to pick them. You know, they're not going to pick them up in the non-conference. I mean, during the conference season either. It's not like there's 3 top 15 teams, and you know a bunch of teams after that. There's Duke.
Mm-hmm.
Duke is the only opportunity at a major quality win. At the Duke, I think North Carolina will count as a good win, but Duke is the only one that's really going to raise eyebrows around the country, and that's going to be a problem. I think you're going to just have, you know, teams week after week in the ACC knocking off each other, and it's going to kind of look like ACC football when I think they were like 5 teams, 6-6. I think you're going to end up with half of the conference, you know, in the 20-game conference schedule. I think, you know, of the 15 teams, probably like 12 of them are going to be between 8 and 12 wins, and then that's not going to get the into the tournament this year.
Yeah.
So I can't. I'm looking at 5. I maybe somehow could be 6, but as few as 4, it's possible. Yeah. It's really bad down year.
Yeah, I feel on that. How about you, Matt?
I will take 6.
Oh wow.
All right, I like the optimism.
I will take 6. I think that some teams will get it together by the, you know, their offensive sequences better by the end of the year, and that will be enough to get 6 into the NCAA tournament.
Yeah, I think 5 right now. The definites to me would be Duke, Carolina, Louisville. I think Virginia Tech has a good shot, and I think Wake Forest has a good shot right now. So Wake Forest was, to your point earlier, Jeff, they've been playing well because they've been taking care of business. So and they take advantage, and also they got 2 nice out-conference wins I mentioned earlier. So if they don't spit the bit, I think they'll be in good shape to make the tournament.
And I like Virginia Tech long term, though. I mean, I know they had that rough game against Wake Forest, but when they played a couple of NCAA caliber teams, you know, Memphis, when we saw what they did to Alabama last night, they ran, you know, Alabama off the court, which is nearly impossible the way they run up and down the floor. And Virginia Tech was right there with Memphis in that game for a long time. And I think long term, I think they're going to get it squared away.
Right.
Florida State. I'm going to put, did we say Florida? I can't remember. Did you say, either of you guys say Florida State in? I'm putting them in.
No, I not right now.
I'm going to put them in.
Ooh, they got a lot of work to do.
They do.
I'm going to put them in. I'll put them in, and I'll put them in as a last 4. That's my bet for you today. There you go. They'll be one of the last teams to get in.
Wow.
And potentially make a Syracuse type run. Maybe not as far as Syracuse did last year, but you know, they just, to me, they'll find a way. I mean, this looks like one of Leonard Hamilton's earlier teams when he didn't necessarily have the scorers, but he had the big threes playing defense. And that's what I think will happen with him later this year. But me, you know, I could be wrong, but that's my 6th.
All right, that's cool. Well, I love Leonard Hamilton. So the coach and as a man. So I'm hoping for the best for Leonard Hamilton as well. We'll get you out on this right quick. notice that Duke made a hire in football.
Yes.
The defensive coordinator from Texas A&M. So Matthew and Jeff, you follow up close to sharp with y'all's thoughts on the hire that Duke made and what do you think of the Duke program moving forward with this gentleman?
I mean, credit for Duke to be able to make a hire, make that kind of a hire. I think it says a lot about how David Cutcliffe improved the perception of that job and what you could do in that position if you had long-term support and resources. And the fact that they could get somebody to come from Texas A&M up to Durham, I think is a big deal. So he'll just have to recruit hard like he's used to in the SEC, and have to recruit players that want to get a Duke education, or there for their long term. But I mean, it can be done. Look at Pat Fitzgerald at Northwestern, right? Who finds ways to win at Northwestern. So it can be done at Duke, So, that's my take on that. The fact that, I think Cutcliffe made that into a better job than had been seen, for the prior several coaches that were there.
Yeah. How about you, Jeff?
I agree a lot with what Matthew said. Pulling out a defensive coordinator from the SEC who was reasonably good at Texas A&M. I mean, they had pretty good defenses.
Yes, they did.
Pretty good defenses there, and they recruited well at Texas A&M. I definitely agree with Matt. I don't think that with Matthew that I don't think Duke could have pulled a coach of that caliber prior to David Cutcliffe. So that's something that they could sell a new coach. Hey, it can be done. It's been done in recent history. Elko's got a lot of work to do. I would hesitate to say that he's going to be like a lifer there at Duke. I mean, if he starts winning, I could definitely see him moving on in 3 or 4 years. But that's okay. That's who Duke is. I mean, they set their expectations as long as they're realistic about what they're looking for. Not necessarily hiring not looking at winning national championships there, but being a consistent bowl team, maybe winning a coastal title. Those are goals that are reasonably attainable. And he has a pretty good pedigree. Let's see. He's never been a head coach before, but let's see what he can do. I think it was a reasonably good hire, and looks pretty good on the surface.
Yeah, I think Matthew said it perfectly earlier, and Jeff, you alluded to this. They should build a statue of David Cutcliffe because he did a lot for that program, more so than any of the coach in our recent memory outside of Steve Spurrier in the late 80s, I should say. So, yeah, so because Duke is now, they have a real football stadium. They got that track the hell out of that stadium at Wallace Wade, right? They modernized it and everything else, and it looks good. The future's bright for Duke football. I mean, they get more resources, they get more support, and that's largely due to Cutcliffe.
Yeah, and he put guys in the NFL. They put guys in the NFL at Duke. I think they put 4 or 5 guys in the last NFL draft.
Yeah, so you could send your kids there if they didn't want to play in the league. You send them to Duke to play football. Yeah. And that's due to Cutcliffe. So props to Cutcliffe on that. And I like to hire again the SEC guy from a major program at Texas A&M. He's done recruiting before. He knows. I'm sure he knows what the hell he's doing. So it looks good for Duke in the future years to come. All right, thank you guys for breaking this down with me, and thank y'all for tuning in to tonight's podcast. Please to subscribe, like, and comment. We've got over 300. I have over 300 subscribers. So again, I celebrate small victories. So I'm happy. So please subscribe. Please check these two gentlemen out on All Sports Discussion, ACC Sports Blog. And please, Jeff and Matthew, tell the listener, or the viewers, I should say, where they can find you on Twitter.
You can find me on Twitter at Talkin' ACC Sports. I definitely am on there on the weekends and at some point during ACC games, just tweeting about what I'm watching and blogging at allsportsdiscussion.com.
All right, and Matthew?
You can follow our site Twitter account at allsportsdacc, and my personal Twitter account is at HokiesMash_ASD.
Cool. All right. Thank y'all for tuning in. Please check out my website, www.theklowntimes.net. Go to cafepress.com, search for the Klown Times Sports for some merch. Again, the links will be in the description below tomorrow on YouTube. And until next time, take care. Have a Merry Christmas. Peace out.
All right. Thanks for having us.